Welcome, everybody. We're glad to have you joining us today. We always appreciate you coming in and being part of what it is we do here. We are Mainline Executive Coaching, ACT, ACT. ACT is what we do as leaders. ACT is also cultural transformation. That's what we do. We work with leadership development and cultural transformation. I'm Michael Bailey. I'm here today with my partner, Rich Barron, as usual. Happy to have Rich here. We're also happy to have another great friend with us here, Al Fragnoli. And so this is going to be a great conversation. We're going to talk about something that people don't often think about in terms of the business. And the business is this. Are you creating a successful business, or are you creating a culture of success? Sounds similar, but very, very, very different. Very different. So let's start out. Rich, what's your ideas on these two different ideas about business and culture?
It's interesting. If you go out and look on the internet, or if you look for any articles based on successful businesses or culture, you're going to see there's not a lot of segregation. Everybody figures that, culture nowadays anyways become a word that every company uses. We got a great culture. But in the end, most of those companies that we work with anyway are really struggling with understanding what culture is. And so when you talk to a lot of these people about, we have a successful business, we're running a successful business. Now, who is that? Is that we as in the upper echelons of the company, the C-level, this super elite in the organization are saying, yeah, we have a successful business. It's really benefiting us a great deal. Or are they going to mention that, yeah, we have a culture of success? They're two different things entirely. A company that has a culture of success is inclusive of everybody in that organization, top to bottom. Companies that really, when they just talk about, well, we have a successful business, really are focusing on revenue, data points, numbers along the way. And that's one of the things that we found, but there's a definite distinction between how those businesses function and the longevity of going forward.
All right, excellent. How about you, Al? What's your take on those two different ideas?
Yeah, first of all, Michael, Rich, thanks so much for having me on. Always a pleasure talking with you guys. Rich, I agree a lot with what you just said there, right? I mean, companies can be successful if they're looking at the numbers and just the numbers, but they've got to look at the big picture. They got to look at everything, right? And if they don't have that culture of success, they're not talking to their people, they're not engaging with them and really understanding if the values and the beliefs and the traditions of the company are really focused on day in, day out, then they're probably going to lose a lot of their top tier talent, right? So, Rich, I agree with a lot of the points that you mentioned there. I mean, if you're just looking at the revenue and the bottom line, the numbers, you're kind of missing that big picture. You got to really make sure that your employees are engaged and that culture is very strong. Because when it is, you'll definitely retain some of your top people.
I remember working with one very successful seminar group. They were very successful. They were bringing in a lot of money. And I remember, and I was running one of their teams at the time, and I remember them coming in and saying, we are going to grow the pie. We are going to grow the pie. And as we grow the pie, everybody's going to benefit. We're all going to grow. And they indeed did grow the pie. The only problem is that pie, as it grew, the slices that everybody was getting got thinner and smaller.
Yeah. When I think of grow the pie, I think of leaving it in the fridge too long and it starts getting mold on it, and it looks like it's growing hair and stuff.
Grow the mold.
Yeah, that's what I think when you grow the pie. But that's just me.
Yeah, the pie can't be growing just for the people at the top. It's got to grow for everybody, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it begins this really interesting conversation, this really interesting interaction that grows not only the pie, but grows the culture. When you really take a look at it, we can take a look at it in terms of me and my group here. Or we can take a look at it as the whole company, what we are doing together to make this a better, bigger, happier, more prosperous company. And that's hard to do, isn't it? because it takes time to really get to know your people. And it takes more time to get to know them to the point where you care about them, not just know their names, right? Rich, you guys have been there. Not just know their names, but know a little bit about them and know what's going on with them, know what's happening in their lives and what they're doing and how the teams are working and how they feel about being on the team, all that stuff. That is, you know what that is? That seems like it's out of a lot of people's leaders' wheelhouses, but that is leadership. That is what leadership actually does. Goes out, because when you do that, you are connecting with people. Now, here's the thing I think most people don't understand that are leaders, especially the higher you get to the top. Whoever you are at the top, particularly CEOs, and then that next layer, you are the culture. You are the culture. Everybody looks to you to see how to behave, how to communicate, how to get things done. They all look to you. So you, just by being there, set the culture, set the standards of what is expected. And if what you're seeing throughout your organization is not what you like, is not what you expected, the results, people, the way they work with each other, the first place you got to look to is yourself. What is it that I'm doing that I'm bringing this terrible culture to my business here? And that's a hard mirror to look into, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if we're talking about, we and me versus all that kind of stuff, what do we do? Now, what do we do to start? If somebody wants to be honest about it, really brutally honest, perhaps, not like hurt my feelings kind of thing, but just really honest stuff about that. What would they do? What is it, something that we can do to offer them and say, you want to know the truth? Bam, here's something that we can do for you now.
Well, Maikel, you brought up an interesting point that I think some top leaders miss, right? And you mentioned getting to know your people, and it takes time to do that. So I think sometimes some leaders, again, just focus on the bottom line and those numbers, but your most successful leaders take the time to get to know each and every single one of the people that work for them, right? So, and that starts with to your point, Maikel, not just getting to know your name, know more about the person. What are their hobbies outside of work? What do they enjoy doing? Get to know a little bit about their family. Show that you have a sincere care for each individual person that works for you. And you're going to see that culture within your company grow and thrive.
You've talked about that before. One of the things I really loved about the way you approach culture and teams, really getting to know who they are, their families, their the hobbies and that kind of stuff. That is a beautiful. I remember when you first said it, I thought it was great. Thank you. So, Rich, what do you say?
I got to tell you, here's a very interesting example of this. Today, we're in Utah, Salt Lake, just north of Salt Lake City, Utah. But it was announced today in Utah that we hit the lowest unemployment rates in history, 2.2%. Now, that means that for every person that's looking for a job in Utah, there are 7 open positions. Now, a business that is successful anymore really doesn't matter, because everybody's going to be paying the same type of wages anymore. And if you look at this, there's wages have gone up. It's a job seeker's paradise right now. But these people who want to retain employees, wages and simply benefits are not good enough anymore. That's not why employees are staying. So if you say, hey, I got a great successful business, you need to probably step back and take a real hard look at what your retention rate is and if your employees are getting poached, or if you're having to continually poach employees from someplace else. Now, this issue here in Utah is growing. It's growing across the United States. You're going to see more and more of this as more businesses come back online, and a lot of these people are still staying home. The way you can retain employees is not anymore wages or benefits or whatever. It's going to be culture. The ability to succeed, the ability to be included, the ability to know that you're part of this bigger organization that includes you. And that's what a lot of these are looking for. They're getting poached left and right. Companies are poaching employees from each other all day long. That's the name of the game right now, just to fill, get enough employees to go to work. And if you're not focusing on culture, then you're not going to make it to where you need to be eventually.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. If you like somebody and you think they're a pretty cool person, no matter what it may be, you could be in a relationship or it could be just somebody at work. But if you really like somebody, what is it going to want to do? Are you going to want to know more about them, or are you going to want to know less about them?
Yeah, Michael, I think naturally you're going to want to know more about them, right? I mean, in that instance, you gravitate towards somebody that you like and you want to continue to learn more and more about them.
Good. I agreement with that as well, Rich.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think this gets us to a very interesting point. And the point is, yes, you do want to know more about them. So you leaders out there that are looking at your business and the culture of your business, if you're a little uncertain about how that culture is working for you and for everybody that goes there, when you think about having your employees take a serious cultural assessment, if you're really looking at that, if you want to know how your people are doing, are you going to be excited about it? Or maybe you don't want to know about it, so therefore you're going to be afraid of it. What do you mean of that, Rich? Either fearful or excited?
Been there, done that. So I'm seeing that. I'm working through that as we speak. But the problem is you've got to set everybody up prior to these assessments and get them ready. What are you going to do if this comes back negative? Yeah. What are you going to do if this is a poor assessment? Are you going to put it under the rug? Like another organization we know of, Michael, that is now tanking in a bad way, unfortunately, because it's a great organization. Or are you going to be prepared for what comes back? And it's scary. It's like doing an individual 360. It's also a bigger look at the organization and the leadership as a whole. What's our culture like? Culture is a top-down exercise. If you're not ready, if you're not ready, you're going to struggle.
It's like that you do things that are annoying to your wife, and you finally say, "Okay, listen, I'm going to just get this cleaned up." And you say to your wife, "All right, honey, I want you to be very honest with me, really honest with me." Walks into that one, but I want you to tell me what exactly bothers you about me, or things that I do, or what do you find annoying? That takes a lot of guts. And not that she's going to be mean, but if she's really honest with you, you may have some surprises when you enter into and you exit that conversation. You know what I mean? And it takes that kind of backbone to be willing to hear. What do you think, Al?
It does. I mean, yeah, it takes a lot of courage and strength, but those are the top companies that we see time in, time out, right? That if they get negative feedback, which in some instances you might, are you going to be the type of organization that doesn't do an assessment ever again and says, forget about it? We don't want to get these results because they were negative. Or do you really take the time to stop, reflect, look at those results and try and understand what the deeper issue is and why those results are happening, and really focus on trying to improve? That's how you're going to get to that next echelon and that next step and separate yourself from those companies that truly don't value culture.
And that's why 75% of the time, the attempts to change culture, the transformation culture thing, fail. Because if you take a look at it, what really happens there is leadership chickens out. That's why you got to have leaders that have real guts, that have real integrity, that are willing to take this on and be able to say, okay, give me your best shot. I'm willing to take it, and then let's do something about it to make it better for everybody. It's that whole question again. Is it me, my little group, and myself, or is it we, the whole company here? That's the real cutting edge there. I think that's and I tell you, if you're working for one of those organizations that are willing to say stand up and do it, you're working for an incredible organization, really incredible organization. What are your thoughts about that, Rich, if we wind this up here pretty soon?
That probably comes right down to mea culpa.
Yeah.
It's this is on my shoulders. This is who I, if you have a viewpoint of the organization that I'm not aware of, I want to know what that is. And if it's something that's it's kind of across the board and I'm not aware of that, I want to know what that is. You know, if I don't know what that is, I can't fix what I don't know. And that's and you know, it might be a tough pill to swallow. It really might.
Yeah.
But it's something that needs to be done, you know, in order to move forward. Leaders need to understand that. When you're in a leadership position, it's not all, you know, the name on the door and the corner office and the Tesla charging station out in front of the front door type thing. That's not what it's all about. You've got a handful and sometimes hundreds and hundreds of employees. You're literally holding their future in your hands if you're at a certain level. So if you can't take that feedback, then probably get out of there and let someone take over who can. You know, that's probably my thoughts on that, because you've got a lot of people and potentially you're holding their entire future career in your hands.
Yeah. There's some businesses that seem particularly susceptible to that. I think family businesses are very susceptible to that kind of thing. Goes on. I think a small business that's still the startup stages, learning how to figure out what's going on, what's really working. And then there's the businesses that have been around for a while and people have just become entitled. They've just taken those positions for granted. It's, again, the name on the door kind of stuff. Those are the ones that really need to take that deep dive and take a look at how is culture working. Because remember this, whoever's at the top, the culture is a reflection of your brain. It's a reflection of you. Okay. So Al, let's kind of wrap it up here. What are your final thoughts as we close out here?
Yeah, just one final thought real quick, gentlemen. I was reading an article just the other week that talked about culture and some of the most important things as we go into 2022. And the number one thing that they found through research was flexibility. So, Rich, I think you mentioned earlier that it's not always about increasing somebody's wage and that's going to make them happy. I think from the last 2 years with COVID, what we found is that people can be efficient by working remotely. And if they are, businesses should probably attempt to keep that model or do some sort of hybrid model. And if they don't, then they're gonna lose, again, some of their top people, because there are going to be other companies that focus solely on culture and how to do the right things for people and still be successful at the same time. And they're the ones that are going to thrive. So I can't thank you guys enough, though, for bringing me on. I love talking culture. I think it's such an important topic. So I'm glad you guys are talking about it today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Tell folks how we get a hold of you now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I can be reached by phone. My cell number is 586-344-9864, or email Fragnoli, Fragnoli, at intelligentleadershipec.com. And I'm also hosting a webinar. My next webinar is going to be on December 16th, 2 o'clock Eastern, talking about what we just talked a little bit about today, culture. So I'll be sharing that through LinkedIn. Anybody can connect with me on LinkedIn if they choose as well.
Now, you got a great podcast as well, Al. How does that work? Tell us about your podcast.
Absolutely. Podcast is Legal Leaders. So we talk about leadership. We typically talk with sports industry leaders, but we venture out and talk to business leaders as well. We share that through LinkedIn as well. So thank you, Rich, for bringing that up. Legal Leaders. We share it on LinkedIn as well.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Rich, take us home.
All righty. And once again, we have come to the end of another awesome episode with, this is some really important information about business success and culture that we're talking about. And we can help you with that. We can help with the culture piece. We can help with the leadership piece. You just have to reach out to one of us. And we can talk and see what we can do to help you get over any issues you may have and prepare yourself for the future. So again, Executive Leaders Act, ILEC.com. Reach out to us or leave a message at potandbox.com /Mainline Executive Coaching ACT. And you go on there and leave a message for us, and we'll get that. And if we like what we hear, we're going to play it on our next podcast, maybe even bring you on. So once again, everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe. Take care, and we'll see you again next time.
And a shout out to all our followers in London, England, Great Britain. Thanks so much for watching.
Yes, thank you. Take care.